Good morning, students. This is Arindam Bag here. I hope you are fine and doing well in your place, staying inside your home. So, today we are going to introduce a new topic here, and the topic is Pride and Prejudice. It's a novel written by Jane Austen. Now, I already sent this file to your WhatsApp group. You will find it. It's a PowerPoint presentation. So in the first slide, what you got here, the name of Jane Austen. She was born on 16th December 1775 and she passed away 18th July 1817. So she was actually a romantic writer. Her novels were very famous and she is extremely popular in English literature. So we have a brief introduction in the second slide, sorry. An English novelist known primarily for her six major novels, which interpret, critique, and comment upon the British landed gentry at the end of the 18th century. So she has something very common for her novel, so that has been mentioned over here, and she has written six major novels, and which is very popular and throughout the world, wherever you go, many university novels are included in the curriculum. So the type of plot which you will find in Jane Austen's novels, there are 3 points we got here. The dependence of women on marriage. Yes, this is very, you will find this theme or setting common in the novels of Jane Austen. The pursuit of favorable social standing, and the last is economic security. So basically, these are the three things you will find common in Austen's plot. Now, the features. What are the features? I mentioned about four features we got here: biting irony, realism, humor, and social commentary. In Pride and Prejudice, you will find all these four elements. These features, they are very common in Pride and Prejudice also, and in the rest of the five novels. Apart from Pride and Prejudice, this is very common. These are the features you will find. So even in the opening line of Pride and Prejudice, you will find there is a biting irony actually. It is universally acknowledged that a man with a good fortune must be in want of a wife. So it is the opening line. So and that line represents the reality also. And if we read Pride and Prejudice carefully, then we'll find humor is one of the essential feature of Pride and Prejudice, and social commentary is also there. You will find the descriptions of balls or parties where people are interacting with each other. So this is also a very common feature. Now the list of works I have mentioned here. So you can see the name of the novels, which starts from 1811 and it continued till 1817. Though she passed away in the year 1817. So some of the works were actually published. You can see that some of the novels, it has been mentioned posthumous. It was actually published in the year 1818. You can see Northanger Abbey, Persuasion, and Lady Susan. It was published in 1871. So these three novels were after her death. So the most common works or the very popular novels are, at first you will get Sense and Sensibility, and the second one, the novel which we have in our curriculum, is Pride and Prejudice. It is written in 1813, and rest of the works are like Mansfield Park 1814, Emma 1815, and then we have this two, Northanger Abbey and Persuasion, Lady Susan. There are two unfinished works also. She could not able to, she was unable to complete these two works. The name of those two works are, those are actually fiction: The Watsons and Sanditon. The first one was published in the year 1804, and the second one was published in the year 1817. So let us learn about the life, or let us have the short biography of Pride and Prejudice. She was born in the year 1775, 1775 in Steventon, Hampshire on 16th December. Let us recheck the date. Yes, 16th December 1775. So there was a place, it is known as Hampshire. She was born in Steventon. She was born a month later than her parents expected. So, it is unusual. Normally nowadays, child, when at the time of their birth, they often uh, the cesarean or the process becomes 1 month earlier. But in this case, she was born a month later than her parents expected. It was in the winter and was particularly harsh, and it was not until 5th April that she was baptized at the local church with the single name Jane. Now, what is baptized? What is this process? Baptized mean, so baptism is a process, Christian process, where the child need to be the parents, they take the child in the church, and there they name him or her, and that particular date, uh, in some of the cases, even in case of William Shakespeare also, that that particular day is considered to be the child's birthday, according to the religious angle. So baptized means child. Normally, what happens, as a Hindu, we are by birth Hindu. We do not need to do any other ceremonies, or we do not need to go through any other system. But in case of these Abrahamic religions, you need to be baptized. In case of Christianity, you need to be baptized, then you will be a Christian. It doesn't guarantee you that your parents are Christians, that's why you will be a Christian. No, until and unless you are baptized, you are not considered to be a Christian. So here she was taken to the church. So that's why on 5th of April, she was taken to the church and she was baptized, and her name was Jane. So her father George Austen served as the rector of the Anglican parishes of Steventon and nearby. So her father is related to the church action, and came from an old, respected, and wealthy family of wool merchants. Yeah, these are very you need to know about her family. She belongs to a very old and respected, wealthy family. Obviously, that's why she was able to choose a career in the field of literature. Over the centuries, as each generation of eldest sons received inheritances, their wealth was consolidated, and George's branch of the family fell into poverty. Now, every family, they have their own tradition. Even in some of the cases, you will find, even in our relatives, if I have one of my relatives, there is a tradition in the family that the youngest child will get the house or most of the property, and the eldest should earn of his her own, and they need to build their own house. So I have one of my relatives, the system is like that. Even in some of the families, there is a system like this, that the eldest son will receive all the inheritance, and the wealth will be distributed. Most of the wealth, the family wealth, will be given to him. In this case, George's branch, that means Austen's father, he didn't get anything. So he was not the eldest son. Her mother's name was Cassandra, and there's a life. Though Harris Big widow proposed Austen, and Austen accepted it. Harris Big was one of the character who seems to be very important in Austen's life. So Harris was not attractive. He was a large, plain-looking man who spoke little, stuttered when he did speak, was aggressive in conversation, and almost completely tactless. So more or less, all of us are like Harris. We are not very attractive. We had normally large, plain-looking men, and normally we speak a lot. Sometimes we started. It's like Harris is not some extraordinary character. He is like a very common man who wanted to marry Austen. Austen initially accepted his proposal. So every girl, they have their dream that his her husband will be the best amongst the lot, and her husband will be the most attractive and handsome with enough wealth. But in this case, Harris Big was not like that. He was very plain. The marriage offered many practical advantages to Austen and her family. Now, this particular point, you will find a very relevance to this point. In case of, if you are going through the novel Pride and Prejudice, you will find that some of the marriages were advantageous marriages. That means the um, particular husband he belongs to a particular class of people from the point of financial condition, and girls are after him, and they want to uh, get the advantage of the condition of the husband. So even I would like to mention the uh, example of Collins, the marriage of Collins and Lucas. In this case, also, Collins was looking for a wife, and Lucas, she is aged enough. She didn't find anyone who will be interested to marry her. So ultimately, she accepted the proposal of Collins for a better future ahead. So he was the heir to extensive family estates located in the area where the sisters had grown up. So Harrisburg belongs to a family with some wealth. With these resources, Austen could provide her parents a comfortable old age. Now, yes, the marriage with Harrisburg offered good fortune. It appears to be, rather, the future looks to be bright. Then give Cassandra a permanent home and perhaps assist her brothers in their careers. Yep. Uh, Wealthy husband like Harris Big provides so many interesting opportunities to her family, it appears. But the next morning, Austen did something bizarre, something out of the context. She rejected the acceptance. In the next morning, the day she accepted, well, I'm accepting your proposal. Next day, she uh, decided to withdraw her acceptance, and she realized that it is a mistake. No contemporary letters or diaries describe how Austen felt about this proposal. No, there is no evidence, or there is no, you won't find any official records where you could understand what happened or why these things happened. It is believed there was letters or diaries, but that was destroyed by her sister. You will get to it later. So this is the family chart of Jane Austen. You can see that she was the child. Her parents' name were mentioned in the second row. You can see Reverend George Cassandra Lee, and you can see she had a very big family actually. Eight child, she was at the bottom line. You can see that Jane, 1775 1870. This is the family tree which I found. I mentioned it over here. So eight brothers and sisters in our family. It's a big one. So education, regarding the education, in 1783 Austen and her sister Cassandra were sent to Oxford. Oh, there's a mistake. I forget to give proper spacing. Oxford to be educated by Mrs. Anne Cowley. Now, the women education at that time was not like today's. Like we have so many scheme going on right now. We have Purnashri, we have Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, and the government is also pushing that women education is a must. Girls should go to school. They should be provided education. Back in those days, it was not the priority, and people with a good financial condition, they sometimes they send their daughters and their childs to the private tutors. So Mrs. Anne Cowley was one of that. So she when she was in Oxford, she suddenly she was suffering from typhus, and which was very difficult for Austen. She nearly died. You know, back in those days, common diseases were very deadly. So, but she recovered. From then, home educated until she attended boarding school and reading with her sister from early in 1785 at the Reading Abbey's Girls' School. So later on, she was admitted to a school, and it's a girls' school in the year 1785. So with her sister. Now, school curriculum probably included some French, spelling needlework, dancing, and music, and perhaps drama. So there is no official records. That's why perhaps the word perhaps used here, and curriculum probably included French. So back in those days also, French was very popular. Like in our society, English is popular. So we learn three languages at a stage, isn't it? We we are multilingual. We are not bilingual. We in India we can handle at least three languages. The mother tongue we have, then Hindi and English, or any other language. So anyway, so sisters returned home before December 1786 because the school fees for the two girls were too high for the Austen family. So education is a very expensive uh, commodity, I must say. Right now also, education is not very cheap. Though education is very common and you will find today it is achievable. But back in those days, it was not very achievable. It was very difficult for the family to bear the expenses. You can see she had a very large family, isn't it? After 1786, Austen never again lived anywhere beyond the bounds of an immediate family environment. So after 1786, it was very difficult for Austen to stay outside, or rather, she never lived again in the bounds of an immediate family environment. This is something which is very interesting. She never left her family. Then the remainder of her education came from reading, guided by her father and brothers, James and Henry. So basically, she received her education through her father and her brothers. Names were mentioned earlier, James and Henry. So that's how she was educated. Now, biographical sources, there is little biographical information about Jane Austen's life except the few letters that survived and the biographical notes her family members wrote. So, um, back in those days, it was not decided that Austen will be very popular in future. Even 200 years after, she will be her biography will be taught in the universities or colleges. So no, there is no official record about it. There are some few letters that survived, and there are some biographical notes where family members wrote. From that, we can assume that what kind of person she was. Austen may have written as many as 3,000 letters, but only 161 survived. Now, this is a very typical tendency of Jane Austen. Even in the novel also itself, Pride and Prejudice, you will find there are so many letters. Sometimes it has been said that whether we can consider Pride and Prejudice as a epistolary novel or not. So 161 survived. What happened to the other letters? They were actually destroyed. Many of the letters were written to Austen's older sister Cassandra. So most of these letters they were actually addressed to her elder sister Cassandra. She used to share even in case of John Keats. There is a particular term negative cavalry which was actually mentioned in a letter which was addressed to which John Keats addressed to his brother. So this was very common. Writing letter was a very common thing back in those days. Now in this case, we find that she wrote many letters which was actually addressed to her older sister Cassandra. In the biographical sources, we find that in 1843, Cassandra burned most of the letters. Cassandra destroyed or censored her sister's letters to prevent their falling into the hands of relatives. The paucity of record of Austen's life leaves modern biographers little with which to work. So this is in the right hand side you can see the example of the letter. Actually, it is the handwriting of Jane Austen herself. And 1843, it was not known to us why she destroyed all the letters. Actually, maybe it was the wish of Jane Austen. She didn't want to reveal her feelings to the public, or she was afraid that her letter might be disclosed. Letters are very personal, you know. Even some people, even I also write diaries, but it is not necessary that I wish to show this, whatever I have written, whatever I have this feeling. So some people, many people actually, you may also write diaries, and you are not comfortable with this idea that somebody is reading your personal diaries. So what happens after 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years? We burn them, we destroy them. We do not want to keep the record. So here also it was the letters which was very, which could have been a, uh, which could play a very important role to understand the life of Jane Austen, but her sister destroyed all of this. So that's why researchers, they don't find things, materials to do their research about the biography of Jane Austen. Now, illness and death. Austen was feeling unwell by early 1816, ignoring the warning signs. Her final illness has been described as resulting from Hodgkin's lymphoma. So this is a disease she was suffering from, and she had some early symptoms. She ignored. Her illness was progressed. She experienced difficulty walking and lacked energy. So this illness was slowly making her life difficult, and by mid-April she was confined to bed. There are some diseases, you know, which shows, which has some sort of earlier symptoms, but we do ignore them. We do not realize that it is a symptom. So she also did this, and here is the that particular home, where, house where she used to stay during her difficult times, during the time of illness. It is the actual picture of um, Austen's house. So in May, Cassandra and Henry brought her to Winchester for treatment. So she was moved to Winchester for treatment, by which time she suffered agonizing pain and welcomed death. So this is the house actually where she died. It is in Winchester. Her brother Henry and Cassandra took her to Winchester for treatment, and Austen passed away in the year 1817, 18th July, at the age of 41. 18th July, I guess. Okay, I'm going back to the first slide again to reconfirm, because some of the dates are, yes, 18th July, uh, 1817. So you can see it was the height of romantic age when she passed away, 1817. At the age of 41, she died at the age of 41. Well, you may be shocked, because 41 is a very, uh, 41 is not the age to die right now, according to your, you know, lifestyle, or according to the time right now we have. But if you check the biography of the other romantic writers, you will find they died pretty early. Back in those days, the life expectancy was very short. So 41, she passed away. And the sources I have used to prepare these presentations are, I have used the Wikipedia. You can see wikipedia.org, and I have used a book which was edited by Donald Gray, Norton edition, and I have used English Literature in Context, which is edited by Paul Nowski, Cambridge, and I've used, mentioned the page number also, mentioned the page number of Pride and Prejudice also, which is in page number 212 and 217. Thank you. I hope you understand all the points over here. If you have any sort of queries, or if you have any sort of questions regarding the life of Jane Austen, I try to make a very simple presentation so that you may remember the important points of life, and understanding the novelist biography is important to understand the novel also. It will help you to realize the point, or it will help you to understand the point of view of the author. Uh, you will find some similarities in this case, if you go through her biography, it will help you to understand her novel properly. So thank you all, and do share and subscribe my channel, and please like this video if you think it's worth it. And thank you, and you will find the short question. I believe I already uploaded the long questions. I'll very sure I will. Oh, sorry, I supplied the short questions also to your WhatsApp group. Find it there in the WhatsApp group. And thank you for your patience, and goodbye. Thank you.